Chapter 1, Part 1, Marty. Minos, the city of shadows, the city of despair, the city that only knows shades of gray. It's been raining for 43 days and my skin is rebelling, aching, begging for any drop of sunlight. It's the time of year when people do the craziest shit. The muted skies and endless drizzle get to everyone. We want to scream at the air to open up and bring down a flood or piss off. Anything but this relentless half-assed sprinkling. I take a deep drag off the black clove cigarette hanging between my lips and flick the side of my cheek to produce perfect little smoke rings. I'm procrastinating, and I know it. Normally I'm not the antsy sort, but this time I want something, and there's one person in the way of me getting it. Detective Dimitri Bolton. I throw my half-smoked cigarette on the ground and smush it beneath my boots. There's no time like the present. A different person would probably have an umbrella, but I always seem to get wet anyway, so what's the use? I flip up the collar on my hunter green trench coat and make a dash between the cars toward my destination. The building is a warm brown color, like light roast coffee grounds, which feels comfortable and inviting, but it's an illusion. What waits for me behind those old wooden doors is the challenge of a lifetime, and I'm just a little afraid I'm not up to the job. I have a death grip on the folder under my arm as I push my way in and look around for the list of offices. A blackboard with white lettering tells me which offices are on what floors. Detective Dimitri Bolton is on the 3rd floor, suite 301B. The elevator is in plain sight, but I look around for the door to the stairs. I hate tight, enclosed spaces. The stairs are behind an unmarked white door. It takes less than 5 minutes to get to the 3rd floor. The landing spits me out into a dark hallway. It smells moldy, like the basement of an old house, and the one working fluorescent light flickers at the far end. What a dump. 301B is the second door on the left. The worn lettering on the door reads, Dimitri Bolton, Privet Eve. This is what I call classy with a K. There's a yellow sticky note just above the handle that says, out to lunch, back whenever I feel like it. That puts a damper on things, but I can wait. I'm a patient gal. I try the doorknob. It turns, so I let myself in. Inside, there's one of those yellow metal desks with a brown formica top, and a gray office chair that's seen much better days. Behind that is a row of mismatched file cabinets. The only decoration in the room is a whiteboard on wheels and an oversized corkboard covered in pictures, writing, and strings of yarn. There's one rusty metal folding chair in the farthest corner from the door, so I walk over and sit down to begin to wait. After about 45 minutes, my leg starts to jiggle with impatience. Fuck it. I get up and start straightening the office. I pick up the crumpled pieces of paper that had not made it into the bin, and I start organizing his desk. The man is a slob. There are food and drink stains on most of his paperwork. All of it's out of order. I find manila folders, label them with the same names from the paperwork, and begin sorting. After another hour, I have his desk spotless and folders organized alphabetically. It's really shaping up now. If only he had a candle or even some bathroom spray, we'd really be in business. I thought I told you to stay away from me, kid, a rough male voice says from behind me. I nearly jump out of my skin. I didn't even hear him come in. No, you said you weren't looking for help and to scram. And for the record, I'm not a kid, I'm 22, I reply. Like I said, a kid, he says and shakes his head. And I still don't need help, so make like an egg and beat it. I disagree, I say and spread my arms out so he can admire my handiwork. You need someone to help keep you organized, to make sure you look professional. I can do all that. I may not be educated, but I'm smart, and I'll be the best damn apprentice you've ever had. I've never had an apprentice, so there's no high bar there. I don't need help. I've been fine on my own for the last 18 years, and I plan to go on that way. Detecting ain't no job for a dame, but I'd say by the look of this place, you'll make someone one hell of a secretary, he says and removes his coat and places it on the back of the chair. Listen, bub, you ain't ever met no dame like me. I'm gonna be a detective one way or another. I want to learn from you, the great Detective Dimitri Bolton. But maybe the talk on the street is right. Maybe you are all washed up. There's plenty of other fish in the sea. I'm going places, and if you don't give me a start, someone else will, I say, picking up my folder and throwing it on his desk in front of him. He sits down and gives my resume a quick once-over before he tosses it back at me. I'm sorry about your sister, kid. I really am. But having a missing relative doesn't make you a detective. I already told you. I work alone. I'm really about to let him have it when his office door flies open.
Dimitri. It's always the same. Day or night, rain or shine. And lately, ain't been a thing but rain. Forecast has been overcast and light rain for over a month. Talking heads call it climate change or whatever the sky has fallen title they put on it lately. You can't stop the world from turning, so either adapt or get run over. It had been quiet for most of the morning, and I had just come fresh off a job for some wannabe debutante. Good money, but that woman was oblivious with a capital D, trying to catch her rival with her boyfriend. I decided to treat myself with a job well done. Had slapped a note on my office and went down to my favorite little joint, Don's. Bad food, good drinks. And upon my return, what do I find? Some dame in my space, messing up my immaculate filing systems, trying to talk me into letting her apprentice under me. And just when I think I've finally gotten rid of her after humoring her resume, who the hell should walk in like they own my place? Cynthia Caldwell. Grade A pain in my ass. And my most recent client. I sighed heavily and braced myself for a shitstorm. The Caldwells were the most recent money in Minos. Harold Caldwell had made a name for himself in construction, having one of the cleanest and most reliable crews around, a come-from-nothing story. He worked hard and played it straight from all accounts. His daughter was another story. She believed that her father's success meant she was owed something in this world, and threw her weight around like it meant more than the price tag on her latest outfit. "Miss Caldwell," I tried to get out before she exploded. "What the hell, Dimitri?" she almost screeched. "How the hell do you find nothing?" She was fuming. And something I learned from a successfully failed marriage: never interrupt a woman who is fuming. She marched right to the front of my desk, stood hands on her hips, chest out, nearly knocked over the poor kid as she stormed up. "No photos? No indiscreet liaisons? Just nothing? I've seen them together. You can find their pictures all over. Together. Clubs, ceremonies, banquets, you name it. How the hell?" She started clapping her hands at this point, and my interest lessened as quickly as my irritation grew. "Does the best detective in Minos not find anything?" She shrieked the last part, and huffed hard as if the strain to put out that sentence was equivalent to a hard day's work, and then stared at me with those sharp but pretty blue eyes. "I gave you everything in my report, Miss Caldwell," I said, trying not to grit my teeth. I really hated people with too much money. They run in the same circles. Their families have been in business together for years. It would be strange not to find a Huxley or Edson at large events, considering that Braden and Athena are heir apparent to their respective families. The Huxley family is the most well-known family in Minos. Their family did well in real estate, established itself quickly, furiously, and without prisoners many decades ago. Every 2 or 3 blocks you travel in this city, you'll find either a building with Huxley in the name or land owned by them. The Etsons were one of the founding families of Minos back in the early days of the USA. Their family made its fortune in mining, and unfortunately for the Caldwells, construction. They are well known for being philanthropic and have created and supported several charities. I'm not sure this tart knew how to read, honestly. I wondered, as there was rumor that Braden and Athena were engaged, albeit secretly. But if she could read, she clearly didn't look at more than the opening couple of sentences from my report. I'd even typed it up myself. Everything was in there, yet there she was, in all her furious glory. She was about to start screeching again when she noticed the elephant, or rather, other dame in the room. This seemed to have her pumping the brakes a little bit, not that she had any to begin with. She turned to face her, and this is when I had my eureka moment. "Miss Caldwell, that there's my deputy detective Martina Leibowitz." I stood, grabbing my coat from the back of my chair and looking at my silver wristwatch. "I'm late to meet another client. Direct any questions or concerns you have to my deputy here." I looked at Martina with a grin and a wink. "You want it in, kid? Well, sink or swim," before hurriedly making my exit from my office. God help that poor child.
Marty. That slimy, no-good, rotten son of a bitch. I couldn't believe he thought he was going to leave me high and dry. Luckily for me, I had organized his files before he got back and perused them, just a bit, to get a feel for what I was going to be dealing with here. Considering who this sour-faced snot was, I dug just a little deeper. I don't even mind admitting it feels good when those people who seem to have everything have these little blemishes, secrets, and skeletons in their closets. Like maybe the good life isn't so good, and that what I got is just fine. I know I'm only kidding myself, but I smile just the same. Something else Dimitri wasn't counting on is that not only am I determined, I'm a girl, which is shorthand for I'm about to work this lady over like a pro. I sit down in Dimitri's chair, pull out my clove cigarettes and offer one to Cynthia. She's still stunned that my new boss just booked it out of here in true chicken shit fashion. But I wasn't going to waste an opportunity. No, I was going to show that asshole exactly who he was getting. Listen, Cindy, do you mind if I call you Cindy? I asked and helped her light her cigarette. I didn't wait for an answer. It was now a given. Cindy, you and I are women of the world. Men are cowards. I mean, obviously. I nodded toward the door to implicate my new boss. Obviously, she said huffily and glared at me. I know it's not what you want to hear, but honey, you've got to realize, you are the other woman. I am no man's side piece, she says angrily. Do you have any idea who I am? Oh, honey, I do. I say as I go and grab the chair from the corner so she can sit across from me. Here, sit down. Have you ever read anything by Hans Christian Andersen? I'm not a simpleton, she responds. Of course not. I say and smile like her name and the word stupid would never cross my mind in the same sentence. Did you read The Little Mermaid? Hasn't everyone? Where is this going? She asks, taking an annoyed drag from the cigarette. Well, Cindy, I think almost everyone took the wrong moral from that story. That girl slept on a pillow outside his room like a dog, had her tongue cut out. Every step she took was like walking on glass, and that bastard promised to marry her. I bet our Mr. Eston may have said something very similar to you. Am I wrong? I ask her, even though I already know the answer. Braden Eston isn't known for his fidelity. But what 19-year-old is? Yes, she says in a whisper, and a single tear escapes her left eye. Do you remember how it ends? I ask her. She snorts, still trying to figure out where this is going. Ugh. Yeah, the prince decides to marry a different princess, and her sisters sell their hair to the sea witch for a magic knife with which the little mermaid can kill the prince. When his blood hits her feet, she can be a mermaid again, but she decides she loves him too much and lets herself become sea foam instead. Exactly, Cindy, I say to her with a knowing look, and you know what? What? She asks, leaning forward. By now I can see in her face she's curious about where I'm taking this. Fuck sea foam, I say and light my own cigarette. I watch as the light bulb clicks on in her mostly empty little head. Yeah, she says with a smile. Fuck sea foam. If I'd only known then the road that little fairy tale was going to lead me down, I would have picked a different fairy tale, or told her to paint the town red with some other fella. Instead, I was reading the headlines the next day wondering what the hell I'd set in motion. Minos Golden Boy found dead at construction site, foul play suspected, as evidence of a love triangle emerges.
Dimitri. Good luck, kid, I thought again as I exited the complex. I didn't have time to deal with a woman's scorn. Dames were all the same, deep down that is. Most folks were, when you get down to the bone and marrow of it all. And being drug along or you left out in the storm, well, that would grind anyone's patience and more. Thankfully, I did in fact have another client I was supposed to meet, which made Miss Leibowitz's nagging a blessing. No use wasting my time when money was to be made. Rent don't pay itself after all. I got into my old beater. She wasn't pretty, but she was a solid old girl. Been through a lot together, me and her. I stroked the steering wheel as she roared through the streets. Good old gal. I pulled up about a half a block away from Roddy's place. Rot to Riches, a hawking shop on 13th and Edson, Old Town. Place for never-beens and the hopeless. Roddy was an old acquaintance, helped me crack a few cases back in my blue days, before I hit bottom, and more after, and he had called in a favor. I saw his signs flashing as I walked up to the door. The windows were all barred and sturdy glass throughout. Roddy didn't take no chances, and you couldn't down here. Place was almost lawless, but for the odd patrol. I double-checked my ribs for Fiona. The weight felt good. A quick look around before opening the door, letting the smell of smoke and desperation fill the streets. The place was dimly lit. Roddy figured it would be harder for someone to try to rob him if their eyes had to adjust to the place first. Shelves and glass cabinets filled the place wall to wall, with any and every kind of trinket, gadget, instrument, and more that you could think of. Roddy's ape, Hugo, sat imposingly beside the door, a double resting on his lap, face stony and intimidating besides. I nodded as I passed him, and his eyes followed me in acknowledgement. This time of day, the place was empty. Roddy sat behind the counter, a headband magnifier pulled over his eyes as he studied some gemstones behind his bulletproof glass. He didn't bother looking up as I approached. "About damn time, Bolton. Figured you forgot about poor old Roddy," he said, still inspecting his stones. I could see the glow from his security system displaying from multiple monitors illuminating around him. "Well, you know me, Roddy. Better late than dead," I said, cracking a smirk. "Came as soon as I could." I glanced around, ensuring the place was empty, and heard the familiar click of a door locking. I turned towards the front door and saw Hugo sitting back down as the blinds began to descend, further darkening the shop. Must have been something heavy for this kind of response. Normally, Hugo just sat looking cross, with knuckles in his pocket and a burner at his side, openly displaying his hardware and battening down the hatches. Something was up. I looked back at Roddy, and he was sweeping the gemstones into a long, thin box. I heard a switch flip from behind the counter and watched as his security system switched off. I did another quick glance around. Yep, this is about as weighted as you can get before the house throws you out. "What's the deal, Rodimer?" I asked as he opened up the door to his fortress and entered the main lobby. I looked at him and could tell as he squared up with me. Roddy was sweating and shifted nervously, almost bouncing. Nothing shook Roddy, and I mean nothing. He was a cautious and prepared man. But this man before me couldn't have been more spooked if Lucifer himself appeared before him out of a hole in the ground. It took him a minute to speak up, and when he did, it came out as a whisper. Roddy was scared. Something got dropped on me, Bolt, and I couldn't refuse it." He glanced at the door before returning his eyes to me. "What, Roddy? What the hell's got you so rattled?" I asked earnestly. He glanced at the door again and turned, moving towards the back of the store, waving for me to follow him. So I did. I watched as he stopped in front of the back storeroom and pulled his ring of keys off his belt. His hands were shaking so bad he could have been auditioning for some tambourine group out west. He finally found the key and wiped the sheen of sweat that had gathered on his forehead off on his sleeve before unlocking the door. He opened it and quickly took a step back, not wanting to look inside. The light was on in the room as I looked inside, and then I saw. My mouth fell open, and for a moment I was at a loss for words. What the fuck, Roddy?
Marty. I had a copy of the Minos Tide tucked under my arm with the headline in full view as I marched up to Dimitri's office. It was early. I expected he would still be sleeping, but I nabbed the spare key from his desk yesterday, so I could let myself back in. I was an employee now, and I needed to get ahead of this before he got it in his head to fire me. That damp, rotting smell infests my nose as soon as I exit the stairs onto his floor. If possible, it's worse than yesterday. I add finding new office space to my mental list of things to do once I turn this business around and he makes me a full partner. I know it sounds a bit cocky, but it's something I know deep in my guts. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is how I'm finally going to find charity. Not even the great Dimitri Bolton is going to get in the way of that. When I open the door, smoke rolls out like a thick fog, and Dimitri is wide awake, smoking like a chimney and staring at his desk. Fuck. He knew. He'd seen the paper, or he'd contacted the police after they'd interviewed Cindy. Either way, I needed to start talking. I can explain, I said. I thought I was sending her out to paint the town red, or that maybe she'd slash his tires, mostly harmless stuff. I can't believe this, he muttered, but didn't look up at me. I swear, I had no idea she'd lose her shit that way, I said. She's not the brightest bulb in the box. Honestly, I'm astonished she even thought to take it that far. This is happening. It's really happening, he said softer than before, and he lit a new cigarette with the dying embers of the one he'd just pulled from his lips. It was like he wasn't even talking to me. But he had to be. Didn't he? Dimitri! I say loud and snap my fingers in front of his face. Oi, snap out of it! What in the hell? He said, finally noticing me. I said I was sorry, okay? Sorry? He repeated. Yeah, sorry. I didn't know she was gonna kill the son of a bitch, all right? I said defensively. Wait, what? He said and shook his head. Cynthia Caldwell killed Braden Eston, or I guess, most likely killed Braden Eston after I gave her a bit of a pep talk, I said with a wince. Oh, that broad? Who cares? We got bigger problems. You need to sit down, he said. A wave of relief hit me for a minute. He said we. That meant I was still in. I grabbed the folding chair and pulled it up to the desk. Dimitri stood up nervously and locked the door to his office. He lit another cigarette with his half-smoked one and handed it to me. You're gonna need this. I took the cigarette and sat down. He was looking around frantically like a scared mouse. I was starting to get nervous. Dimitri didn't spook easily. He was a seasoned professional. Whatever had him going, it was gonna mean big trouble. What do you know about the legend of Minos? He asked. You mean like the Minotaur in the Labyrinth? I asked. Exactly, he said, pleased with me, and produced an ancient-looking box with a labyrinth built into it. The craftsmanship was exquisite. There were symbols carved around the exterior. They looked Greek, but I'm no scholar. It's beautiful, I said. What is it?
Dimitri. What is it? She asks. What is it? This repeated in my head a few times as I stared at it. No wonder the country's going downhill. Can't even be bothered to teach the kids proper history. I said slowly, trying to contain my frustration when I knew it would be more projection than anything else. It's not good. I finished puffing on my cigarette. I'd been awake all night since Roddy had given it to me. Bastard. Cigarettes were about the only thing keeping me going with the insanity that had been dropped on my lap. Wait, did the kid say something about talking Cynthia into killing Braden? The fuck did... Never mind. Not now. Bigger fish. The thing's had many names. It's old and it always spells trouble with a capital F, I managed. It's the gift to Minos. I knew about the thing. Damn thing had myth written all over it. I would know a whole lot less if it wasn't for that damn loony cult that had taken up residence in Minos ages ago. Long before I was alive, at least. They had been forcibly disbanded, scattered, imprisoned, and any other concept you could think of short of burning them at the stake to be rid of their foolishness. And yet they remained. They called themselves the Seekers of the Center. SOC. Something to do with finding the center of Minos' labyrinth. Though if you took the time to listen to their delusional ramblings, they thought the whole world was inside of the labyrinth, but they were the only ones trying to find the way out. Madmen, the lot of them. Small clusters here and there would spring up from time to time. A doomsday cult, many thought. Trying to bring about the end of the world by finding the center. I told the kid as much. And this, I jabbed a finger towards the box, this here is sacred to them. Said it's been lost. You read about this damn thing along with the likes of Pandora's box, but it's here. Damn thing's in my office. I cursed at myself. This could mean nothing but trouble. Marty looked at me, her brow furrowed like she wasn't understanding why I was so freaked out by this. How do you know it's the real deal? Why don't we just burn the thing and get rid of it then? She asked. Naive kid. Naive and out of the know. You can't, I stated flatly, lighting myself another cigarette using my previous. I tried already. Ran the damn thing over, took a couple of smacks at it with the hatchet, nothing. Not a scratch or scorch mark on the thing. That's how I know it's the real thing. And unless I was born yesterday, those damn seekers are gonna come spilling out the walls like roaches before long. That'd be just my luck, I spat. I slammed my hand on my desk in frustration. The thing was beautiful, no doubt, and someone had pawned it at Roddy's place. For something like this to be showing up, and at seemingly random like that, ain't no chance in hell. Not in Minos, not with the weather being screwball, not with the city's founding anniversary on the horizon. Ain't no way. They'll come for it sure enough. Whole city will go crazy, no doubt, I said, talking to myself more to the kid as she flipped the box over in her hands, inspecting the thing. We gotta get rid of it, guide it out of town, or drop it in the ocean or something. Just not here. See, I knew what the cult would be up to. I'd seen it. Up close and personal, and I didn't want a damn thing to do with any of this. I lit another cigarette. And that's when, with a flash and a boom of thunder, the power went out. Can this day get any worse? I asked, exhaling a plume of smoke. Hi, everybody.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm Andy.
I'm SamiJo.
And we are here to discuss our first chapter and the shenanigans that have happened in the drawing of blood of the beginning of our duel.
Oh yeah, first blood has been drawn. You left me alone with that woman.
You killed somebody outright. Somebody I had plans for. And not only did I have plans for him, you made him some like 19-year-old punk when he's supposed to be like the heir apparent, like a big, like getting ready to take over the family business. And oh no, he's just some punk kid that I just offed. Like,
you offed him?
You offed him.
Well, you just said that I just offed. So I thought maybe you were taking credit because we don't know who's killed him yet.
That's a lie. And I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
I mean, Cynthia could have killed him, but she very well could have not, too.
Yeah, she could have gone and drunk away her sorrows, but I don't know. Is she 19? Is she eligible for drinking? Or any sort of shenanigans to quell the heartbreak that she felt from her pretend boyfriend?
Well, this is kind of set back like 1940s-ish, like maybe.
1940s-ish?
I would think so.
I don't know about that. Because, I mean, like, there's any number of things we can do with it, and there's any number of ways we can spin the story. I actually had a pretty cool idea I wanted to do, but I'm not going to tell you about it so you don't use it against me. But it involves, it not being the 1940s and other things.
Oh, okay. I see how it is.
But no, so you definitely threw me for a loop when you killed Braden, because I had actually, before you killed him, he was who Bolton. He was who Bolton was going to go meet, and that was going to be his next client, which was going to spill us into the actual like murder mystery part of the things going on, or at least like the Lovecraftian, like, oh, the cult and mysterious secret societies type stuff. And you just cut that off right at the head.
Well, I kind of thought that when I left the door to be, open to see who would come through, that it would be more like, Sherlock Holmes, where the damsel in distress comes in and we get the case and then we take it on and she tells us all of her woes and you decide to keep me on because I'm really good at talking to people and, but then you just left me in a room with her all by myself and you had already solved her case. So I was like, well, fuck.
Well, first and foremost, her case was literally a case that private eyes have to solve all the time. Is my man cheating on me? Is my wife cheating on me? That type of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I figure kind of a slough case to kind of open the door into things. But it happens to be one of the members of the richer families and more prominent families in the area. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that leaves the door open there. There were doors open all over. The world was your oyster. You could have eaten at any restaurant. But you decide to eat at Murder Are Us. And so...
Well, that's what happens in noirs. People die.
Well, see, and since you mentioned it, that's something I was kind of curious about. What part of Lovecraft noir has a Sherlock Holmes feel to it? Just curious.
Well, I mean, just the idea of having, how you get your case where you show up. I mean, they all kind of do that in that kind of Sherlock Holmes way. The dame walks in, your femme fatale, and, she gives you the case, or you walk into her home and, that sort of thing. That's usually the kind of opening that you get.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I can see that in some aspects of things. But it's not like that's gone, though. I mean, heck, no. She could have rehired you to do the same thing, but you didn't take it that route.
Well, she could still rehire both of us to clear her of Braden's murder.
Well, I guess she could do that, but then we have another issue with the box that was found. See, because I had another plan for the box that was found. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't the box. Like I was gonna have like some monster or something like dead in his office that Roddy had found, and what you gave me instead was like an artifact type, or I chose to use it as an artifact type of thing. And this is how I'm bringing the cult or secret societies into the story. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any push on that one because you get to decide where that goes from there after the lights went out.
Oh yeah, I've already sent you my 4 pages. You haven't read them yet.
I
though.
have not read them, and that's going
Slacker.
like honestly, I'm dreading it. I'm seriously dreading it because every time I try to do something, you throw a wrench in my works so far.
Well, it's not very easy to, I think it will be interesting to see how this does play out since we're not allowed to work together to make the story work.
Yep.
We just have to build the story on
Yep.
the information we're given at the time.
Yep.
And obviously both of us see things going different ways or interpret things, in ways that take the story much different places than the other intended.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. I think at the moment I'm kind of tying my hands up a little bit, and I might need to kind of back off on it a little bit because I've always been a big fan of world building, and unfortunately I'm doing all the world building. I mean, you've done a little bit, but like I established, the families, and now we've got the secret societies and stuff like that. And I think if I quit focusing so much on that, I might be able to throw some kinks into your works as opposed to, just leaving you in the room with somebody. So I might try to back off on the world. I really like world building. I really like it. I like to establish a real, juicy environment that people can sink their teeth into. And because now granted, I'm not as, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not as intricate or detailed as say like Tolkien or somebody like that, but I do enjoy their world building,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I'm focusing too much on that personally. So I think if I can get away from trying to world build, I might have a fair chance in a duel against you.
Well, there's going to have to be a certain amount of world building because it's a Lovecraftian noir. So
yeah,
it can't play by the same rules as just the regular world. So there's going to have to be a certain amount.
Yeah. No, I get that. So there's that going on. Kind of curious though as to what you had planned for her sister, because I could see a few different options with the sister there. Especially considering, I could totally just throw some kinks in your works. Like, oh, she's here, she's alive. Hi. Now that part's over. Mwahaha.
That would completely defeat my whole purpose for even knowing you.
Yes, it would. and it would be a massive blow in this duel, I think. But I could also do a few different things with the sister if I so chose. But I don't think the sister should be brought in just yet personally. I think we are way too early in the story for the sister to show up, especially since she's been missing for I don't remember how long. I don't think he even established how long.
I haven't established how long she's been missing, but I thought she was a good plot device for something for my character to be looking for.
Yeah, I could see that.
Especially since I assumed that we were going more 1930s, 1940s, and I had to have a reason for my female character to be trying to get a job and do those things.
Well, I mean, that's in today's current era. No. I mean, women are still trying to establish themselves. I think. Yeah, maybe. Well, it honestly depends because, in the 1930s and 40s, yeah, women kind of had to establish themselves a little better. But I mean, if we decided, or I decided, or you decided that we weren't in the 1940s, so you're trying to write 1940s noir, and I could say pull some shenanigans that we are not in the 1940s, and maybe we're in the current era. And you're just a chick with a chip on her shoulders because guys have done her wrong or something like that, trying to establish.
Oh, so I'm just super emo.
Well, not even emo. Not even emo. You've had bad luck with guy bosses or trying to get into male spaces or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So she feels the need to be more aggressive, and that's a thing that is with women is that when women are in male spaces, they tend to have to be more aggressive because they're in a male space, and generally speaking, the women who are in traditionally male spaces have to be more aggressive to assert themselves within that space. Like, I think there's studies that have been proven on that. Like, high-ranked CEO women are just as aggressive, if not more aggressive, than their male counterparts, because they have to be, because there's that stigma about women, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I could definitely see that being like a thing that she's working on. So I mean, and that's been a thing since the 30s. So I mean, like it could still happen in the 30s, and it could still happen in current era. I kind of had a cool idea, and I can't tell my cool ideas because then she might use them against me.
Well, yeah, no, we can't give any like future hints because I don't even know what your response to the 4 pages I've sent you is going to be.
Yep. And I don't want to tell you what I have planned just in case you try to work around it.
The only thing that we could say is definitely in the future is that we are going to be bringing in some witnesses or, some sort of side characters that will be other writers in the North Dakota community. And they will be doing brief spotlights where they will give you their 3-page, eyewitness account of what happened. And then Andy and I will have to play off that into our story as well. Because you have to remember that the story has to make sense. Like, I just can't decide that aliens come down and that's how that happened. Because it wouldn't make sense. Well, I mean, it could.
I was going to say, you could, just because it's Lovecraft noir doesn't mean it can't be aliens.
No, I get that, but you get what I'm saying.
No, I do get what you're saying.
Like, I can't, we have to take the information given to us, and then we have to play off of that as well. Yeah.
And I can't give her any ideas, because then she might have a counter or a riposte to me, and I don't want that to happen. Because in my opinion, I've got her on the ropes right where I want her.
Oh, do you? Yeah. I've apparently killed off a big character for you.
He was going to be an important, character that led into things. Because he was going to keep the Cynthia Caldwell involved in it and send Bolton back to her. Because she's stalking him or something like that, okay? But no, he's dead. Because of the Little Mermaid. Because of the little frickin' mermaid. He's dead. Supposedly, potentially.
I really do think that people took the wrong moral from that story. Like, I don't get she just loved him so much and it was, it was noble of her to die. No, fuck him. Mm-hmm. Like, seriously, every step she took was like walking on glass.
Yeah.
She had her tongue cut out. Yeah. She really did. Like, did you read the story, right? She slept
but I've been told.
Outside his room on a pillow like a dog.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I'm going to marry you. But then the other girl came along and he was like, oh, wait, just kidding. But we'll keep you around as like a pet. Well, see, and it's like, that's a human.
Yeah. No,
I was appalled. And I really just think that it should be mentioned more often that she should have stabbed him.
Well, and see, but that completely ignores the actual moral of the story. And the moral of that story is no matter how much you love somebody isn't going to make them love you back. And you will lose yourself along the way if you try to force that love to happen.
I never really thought about it that way. I just always thought of it as...
the guy's an asshole and he should die. Yes. That is the moral of the story, everybody.
He's an asshole.
Guys are assholes and they should die.
Well, no, but there's something, nobler than yourself. This true love that you would sacrifice everything for.
Well, yeah. And
I just, if he'd even treated her semi-decently, I wouldn't have been as offended.
And I could see that, I suppose. I mean, he did put her through the ringer from what I understand. And granted, like I said, I haven't read the story. I really should brush up on my Grimm, but...
That's not Grimm.
That's not Grimm?
That's Hans Christian.
Oh, Hans Christensen. Yeah. Sorry. You mentioned it, and I have no clue what you're talking about. I am a slacker. But, no, and I need to brush up on it. And honestly, I should probably brush up on my Grimm anyways. But a lot of those fairy tales from back then, they were rather dark, right? but they had actual prominent messages, unlike, for instance, the Disney version.
Well, I think he was actually in love with another guy who he couldn't be with, and that was kind of the actual story behind the Little Mermaid thing. But
well, that takes it for a twist then, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it does. And so, I mean, I totally could see where he was, like pining for this guy that he could never be with because, he had to be gay back then.
Yeah.
And so, like, I totally get that. But I mean, like, and I will 100% admit that, like, not everything that happened to her is his fault. She definitely, like, she chose, like, the Sea Witch explained the rules of how this was going to go. I'm going to cut out your tongue. Every step you take is going to be super painful.
People do crazy things for love.
I know. And if he doesn't marry you, you're going to be sea foam.
Yeah.
Like, and she's like, no, okay, cool. Like, there's also a moral in there about, like, just seeing somebody once and being like, I'm going to love you forever. And, like, dying on that hill.
Yeah. Well, no, and definitely there is. And unfortunately, it looks like you killed my character on his hill. So I'm having to work around that, which is why I brought Rodimer in to give us a jumping off point.
Or Robbie, as your brother keeps calling him.
Yes. Robbie. Apparently, and this is an issue I noticed, and I'm going to apologize now. I need to learn to read better because I'm not so good with the read of things, and like there's a lot of things like I'm doing okay. I feel like I'm doing okay in establishing the story, and like I don't think that my readings of the story have been a terribly big issue. But if you've noticed, my accent ggets kind of thicker, or Bolt's accent gets kind of thicker as the sections progressed, and I kind of jump in and out of an accent with him.
Well, considering that we've admitted that we are fully amateurs, and
amateurs for days.
This is really just fun.
Yeah.
But I guess we will see you guys next time on Dueling Pens, and
hopefully we won't, or the story won't go all sorts of catawampus, because I'm about to go read her a few pages and I left it on a pretty solid cliffhanger. Hopefully she doesn't just go, the power's out. Hopefully there's something there for us to sink our teeth into. But we'll see next time on Dueling Pens.
We'll see you Thursday.
If you enjoyed this production,
remember to like and subscribe.
And don't forget to follow us on social media,
which you can find linked in our bio.
We'll see you next time
on Dueling Pens.
Bum, bum, bum.
I can't believe you left me in the room with that woman.